Welcome back to Made Up of Wires, where we're decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night. We've been working on the clock tower, but today we're going to do something a little bit different, and we're going to do some project-related stuff. I did clean up all of the stuff that we've worked on the stream in the last few weeks, and that is out for review at the moment, and so hopefully we'll see this NZ1 graph finally move up after all this time. One of the things that I've mentioned quite a bit, the last entry on this is always the greatest, even though we didn't touch this and we haven't touched it for about a week or two. So why is that? And can we fix it? Of course we can. So the issue, I've been looking into it. We're going to work on that a little bit. And there goes all the stuff. Maybe we'll fix that along the way as well. Who knows? I've done a lot of JavaScript in my life, done a tiny bit of Node. Mostly I worked on, the JavaScript that I've done has been client side. And so the server side JavaScript, I don't have a good development loop for. And so we'll suffer through that. I've done enough prep that I think we can get through it pretty easily. I'll talk about some of the things that I found along the way. And then what I want to do is look at several of the PSP overlays that we've already started that still have PSP-specific code or files where they're either not being referenced and we can delete them, or they are being referenced and that code should be moved into just the general source directory for that overlay. And I think we can get a bunch of deletions in the process, which is always fun to do. Submit PRs where you delete more than you add. So let's get into it. So we're going to start with Node. So I've been looking at this and wondering why my change here wasn't working. So originally, this block was missing from this function, and we're going to add it back, but not quite yet. And so what this section of this function does is looks at the timeline of all the changes that have been made for a particular overlay, and then looks for just the commit hashes or commit events where there actually has been a change. And adds that. And so if you're just looking at the events where there has been a change, you would expect the earliest one to be there and subsequent ones to not be there. And if we look at the graph and how it looks, we don't have, basically there's commits every day, and we don't have a point for commits every day. So we know that there is some of that filtering logic working, but it's not working necessarily as expected, and the light bulb moment happened moments ago. And let's look at what my change was doing. It was taking the current date, pushing it to the front of that array, and that's when the light bulb went off. Originally I had this appending, assuming that the code was, or this list was going from oldest to newest in the list. It's going from newest to oldest. And so when we look at the percent of functions not changing for each event, we're always grabbing the newest one first, and we should be grabbing the oldest one first. So what I think we can do is basically reverse these lists, then or go backwards through them, either way, then reverse them again so that they're in the correct order. And then we can prepend with the latest date if it's necessary. I'm not sure that it will be necessary, but we can see if that's the case. So let's try that first. The easiest thing to do, I'm not sure, I don't recall this because I don't know that it's ever come up when I've been looking at it. Do JavaScript arrays get copied when they're parameters, or are they mutable references. I'm not sure. Yeah, so it looks like, my guess is that these are copied or passed by reference. So I want to make copies of these along the way. So we're going to take, we can take this map and reverse it right away. And that one should be fine. But OVL funcs, and OVL code, which is the percent of code and functions that have been done. I think we need to copy those, and I might be wrong. But that should be fine. So we've reversed these now, and that's fine. The reverse happens in place. And so then when we're done, we could now push these to the end. And if we push, we're going to want the first ones. I kind of like the unshift because I can grab the first element here. So, but to do that, we have to reverse all these again. So timeline, we're going to reverse. Hey, roaming. Funcs, we're going to reverse. And code, we're going to reverse. And let's see how that goes. We'll start that. Hopefully I didn't screw anything up too much. I'll flip over when I get this going. All right, and so here's this local copy now. So this isn't doing the filtering like I would expect, which is a bummer. So we get every single event here, which is not what we want. We still want that filtering in place. So let's see what may have happened. So the first thing is we're grabbing the first event, which is fine. Because we are reversing everything. So what might be happening? Let's try this a different way. So what if, instead of reversing these, we just go backwards through the array? So we're going to take if we go backwards through the array, we still need to reverse at some point. I was hoping this would be straightforward, but what do I know? Not much. In funcs, we only have one entry, so that one is fine. So now we're going to go from length minus 2 while I is greater or equal to 0. So now we're going backwards. So that means all of our arrays are going to be backwards. So we do have to reverse them. Let's try that. I don't know that. I don't think I changed anything with the filtering, but it could be that I did. All right, so that looks perfect. So I'm going to take out my my push, but what this does is once we hit 100, we get that date that was hit. So somewhere around April, late March of this year was when DRA finished. That's correct. And Richter was finished last year, a little bit before the end of the year, and that's correct as well. That's, for my eyes, that's much better. I would like these to not have this jump there as well, but beggars can't be choosers. I could add, I guess, another entry to the end of these tables that add a 0 immediately with the same timestamp as the last entry. So if that's desired, I think that would be a pretty straightforward thing to do. Let's do that as well. I like that idea. I like when things look nice. So here we're gonna add the last timeline entry. Does JavaScript have a last field or function? That'd be nice. It might. I don't know. And so funcs is going to get a 0, and code is also going to get a 0. And let's see what that looks like. Hey, does it? And yes, so this does it. No, it's still not what I want. I need to add this just before the last entry. So the 0, the last entry is a 0 that's coming from the start of the project. And so we actually need to take the earliest entry and delete that. So let's do that. What's the best way to do this? So everything will have at least one entry. And now we should have at least 2 entries. We have the start of the project and we have the current date. So we want to take timeline length -1 and replace that value with timeline -2. And funcs and code should have the right value. So so I don't think we have to replace anything there. Let's see if that works. So basically I'm replacing the earliest date with the first date of change for that particular overlay. Oh, did I not switch it? I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I didn't switch it. And let's see if that looks a little bit. It's still not necessarily what I want. Yeah, I want this to be a step function right here at January, and that's not what I'm getting. Okay, well, that part I'm not as concerned about. I'll go back and look at that later. But yeah, pretty straightforward. So we're going through that array backwards. We're grabbing the earliest date instead of the latest date, and I think that makes, in my mind, that makes the functions look a little nicer, or those graphs look a little nicer. Let's switch back. Basically, just doing everything in reverse, and then appending the last date. Let's try not appending. And see, I don't know what the graphs are going to look like without adding an additional entry. Like I said, I'm not super familiar with a lot of these libraries. If this works, great. If it doesn't, no, yeah. So it's ending at the last change date as opposed to the current date. And it's kind of nice to have all those consistently look at what the current date is. It is, and yeah, roaming. That's what I wanted to do. So the issue is we don't actually have a. From what I can tell, there is no starting date, and we can try to look at this data. Where would I find that? It is in here. Let's grab this here. Not this one. It's also not clear to me when is this? Come back. All right, so here we go. So let's look at what the last element of code is, for example. No, we should be right here. So why is code undefined? Now, how could that be? Oh, interesting. So we have a bunch of not in numbers. So we should probably filter those out. Interesting. So that comparison that's being done will always fail. So I think it's isnan. I don't remember if it's capitalized or not. Is nan. Oh, the second n is capitalized. If that's the case, we're just going to continue. Do this. And then let's look at it again. is nan is undefined. And it's possible that we do have an undef there. So in JavaScript fashion, we're going to check for whether this is a value or not first. And try that. We turn error breakpoints back on. A bunch of errors being thrown. And let's see if... So I is 1. So why would is nan not be? Oh, is it math? It's not a function. It's not a function. That's why. Okay, not a function. Sorry, not a method. It is a function. Not expected. Maybe it's in math. It says standard built-in objects, but I'm guessing it's in math. Number is nan. This is using it just as if it's its own thing. Did I spell it wrong? Hey, Dizik. Yeah, isn't that what I have? Is nan? Let's see if it exists on the number object. Nope. It's a syntax error, not a function. I got rid of too many prints. That's better error. I can code sometimes. All right, so we did make it through, and we have funcs at funcs.length. Is -1 a valid index? So the last func in this case is 1, which is a little strange. So 1 equals 100%, but I doubt that it's at 100% at the beginning. It could be wrong. The undefined is a little strange. I'm gonna get rid of clear out the undefines as well. Let's see how this renders, and then we'll pass judgment. Yeah, actually, this is better. This is better just the way that it is. So I don't think I need to do anything more. That looks great to me. Okay, I'm happy with that. All right, so let's do something else. So again, I took the last entry, appended the current date with the amount of stuff that's been done on the last entry, and so we will have things like BO6, which are not quite done. They will look like that. Let's look at NZ1 because we know NZ1's not done. And this clearly shows when those were started as well. So I think overall that's an improvement. Let's be done with that. All right, so the next thing I wanted to do is start cleaning up some of the PSP overlays that have either code or files still in the PSP specific directory, but that don't need them. So I was looking at what is the best way to do this. And so these are the overlays that still have include ASM in them. So each of these does have some functions in them. Let's look for so these are the config files that have PSP specific segments in them. And what I want to do is find ones that don't necessarily have any C files, or if they do have C files, the C files are relatively simple or straightforward. So ARE, which is Coliseum, has the init function, and since we've been moving those into the regular directory out of the PSP directory, I think that's a better layout. And so I'm gonna create a new branch. And we'll start looking at that. So in the current clock tower overlay, we do have STINit, but it's STINit_PSP, and that's just in the same stage directory as all the PlayStation code. And so you can clearly see that it's a PSP specific file, but it exists with all the other overlay code, which again is, I think, a little nicer. If I could see potentially having it at a higher level, like a ARC directory for different architectures, and then maybe we have a directory structure that mirrors the source directory and has platform-specific code. Either way is fine. I don't see an advantage to one or the other. But I don't like that there's an entire directory just dedicated to a single file. I think that seems suboptimal. And in many cases, I think we'll see as we go through this, it's not just that there's a single directory dedicated to a single file. We have the directory, and there's a lot of files that got left behind that are no longer being actually compiled or mapped or anything like that. So this one's pretty straightforward. We're just gonna, actually I'll just do a git move. And we'll move it into the ARE directory. And then over here, we can get rid of our PSP specific stuff. So there's this STINit as well, and Yeah, we'll have to add that there. Make sure I named the top one the right thing. And that should be enough. So that one was pretty simple. There were some that I found along the way that I think are going to be a little more complicated. We'll get there. Come on, come on, come on. Go, go, go. All right, so that all worked fine. Let's see what else we have. So Warp has some assets that need to be mapped. I'm not going to do those at the moment. ST Warp also has some BSS that probably could be mapped. Not going to worry about that either. ST0, which is the prologue, that also has some initialization that we should be able to map pretty easily. So let's do that one. And I think this is going to be the same thing. So we already have an underscore PSP file, so I'm not sure why these other ones didn't get moved. So that one first. This is interesting. Data didn't get mapped for this. That's a bummer. Eventually we'll have to go through and clean all that up as well. All right, so that should work as well. I'll limit this to just the PSP version. That's fine. So then we have this Lang file as well. We chose the PSP EU version of the game as opposed to PSP US or some other version, JP, because it was the first version that I'm aware of that had multi-language support. And so we see that here in ST0, there's a specific Lang C file. And that's kind of interesting that it has a function for get lang that may or may not be part of other overlays. I wonder why that's an ST0. It could just be something that was included. It must be used though. Being in the overlay, every time you switch stages, this is going to get overwritten. So something in ST0 must use it. So it looks like title cards. So we already have code in here that's using this. So it makes sense to get it out of that directory. And that one I'm not going to suffix with PSP. I don't think there's really any reason to do it. And that should be all that's necessary. And I think that's... So we have a few things in here that are PSP specific, but nothing in its own directory. So as we go through, let's see. What we want to do is as much as possible, get rid of these unique stage directories. So like ARE, PSP, we did that one, and there shouldn't be anything in here anymore. So we should be able to do a rmdir. Rmdir is a good way to check yourself that nothing's there, because it won't work if there is something in the file, unless you pass the recursive or other flags. And ST0 should be the same. Oh, it's not empty. So what's in ST0 now? And this is one of the reasons I wanted not ST0 PSP. That's why. And that's why you don't always pass RMR. RM-R. All right, another one done. Let's see what else there is. DRA, not gonna worry about that. Again, RARE, which is the reverse Coliseum. NZ1 we're in the middle of working on, so there's gonna be stuff that is in the _ PSP directory until we're done with it. More inits, like NO4 has an init. That's in there. An init in library. So NO2 looks fine. RARE looks fine. AOTM. Let's do RARE. I consider this a like tragedy of the commons type problem. It's not fun or necessarily interesting, but something that needs to be done. Actually, I just thought of another thing that is going to happen along the way that's worth doing. We've moved these files into their new locations, but they're still going up a directory and then back down. We can get rid of that as well. Yeah, right. It does need game.h. When possible, I try to get things to not include game.h. Because it's a relatively expensive header. And when it changes, which is anytime entity changes, then you need to recompile everything that depends on it. All right, so let's do the same thing here. We're going to do a git move for source st init. And so here's one of those cases. We have a bunch of these: st common, st update. Sorry, I'm wrong again. I did find one of these that does have extra, or I think it has superfluous files in it. And we're going to call that _PSP. And then this as well. So this one was not ready to go. And so let's map and decompile these. And so part of this cleanup will just get everything finished along the way. So the first thing we need to do, this one should be done. I screwed up my move. Where's my git move? I just put it right back into the other directory. So we're gonna delete this file and fix the move. I think I did find some inits though that were not completed. Try again, and that one worked fine. So here we have two. We have one called working on, and then we have the init as well for NP3. NO4 init and another one. More difficult ones I'm going to leave. STNO2. That one looks straightforward. CSS is a little strange here. This one actually is written the way that I think most of these should be. There is no file offset for BSS in the PSP because it's uninitialized data. We don't actually need to write those bytes to the file, and the PSP doesn't. And so the offsets here don't make a whole lot of sense because the data doesn't actually exist in the file. And so instead of putting fake offsets like some overlays do, this just takes the end of the file and then specifies the VRAM location, which is I think a nicer way to do it. It takes a little more work though to do that. So breakable wall in CHI, that might be worth looking at to see why it's in a PSP specific one. Breakable wall typically is shared. So I'm not sure what's going on there. And then we're down to the remaining ones, NP3. I think that's probably the next one that's worth looking at. And then Warp, yeah, has some other things. So the other thing we should be able to get out of this is when we look at these, we shouldn't have any other Why do I have that in there? We shouldn't have any other _PSP directories than these particular overlays. So I want to see if that is actually the case. So we're going to look for that startup _PSP, and we'll make it type D. Let's sort both of those so we can compare them. So DRA actually doesn't have an _PSP directory, but oh, because it's not in ST. Never mind. We're just looking at it. So cat, chai, lib, no3, no4, np3, nz1. Our array shouldn't have anything in it anymore, and it doesn't, so we can get rid of that. It doesn't track directories, so if we delete everything from it, when we would rebase next, those directories probably would go away. Cell and warp. So that does look like all of them. I was pretty certain that there were some files, though, that weren't being referenced anymore. So, for example, NO4 has 35 files in the _PSP. NZ1 has 50 files. Are there really that many C entries? C segments? Oh no, that's include ASM. Never mind. Looking at the wrong thing. So NP3, I think, was the next one. So let's look at working on. So working on still is unique and does require some work, but we can move the other ST and net and at least have that consistent. All right. And let's see how many of these still have ST and net in them. Looks like most of them. I may as well move all the ST nets. few more, and then we'll find a new problem to solve. So I screwed something up. Yeah. I didn't change the prefix to PSP. One, two, three, four, five more, and then we'll move on. The other thing that, and I didn't think about this, but I should possibly go back and do this as well. Once we move all of the code from out of the NO3 PSP directory and into the regular NO3 directory, we can actually move the source base down into the NO3. Some of the other tooling doesn't expect that, so that might not be possible, but it could be worth looking into. So it looks like we have cell and warp. Cell is the stage selection overlay. So it sits where a stage would be in memory, but it's for loading your save from memory or starting a new game. Oh, I screwed something up. Credit data. Oh. So it looks like we have to move credits data as well. Let's see if anything else is using that. My guess is not. Yeah, so we'll move that as well. Oops, I looked at the wrong place. I haven't looked at cell lately. Yeah. Let's see what's in that file. Oh, so it literally is the credits. Interesting. How's life? Hey, Ansh, good to have you back. Well, it's going pretty well. How about you? I have a car that's broken. And waiting to get that back. Hopefully I get it back this week. Somebody hit my wife, which is not cool. And so we've had a car getting fixed for about a month. The way some of this data is set up for init, I guess it is static, so that's fine. We could potentially have this just as its own overlay. And just get rid of all of the cell prefix stuff, and that should work fine. This has a few things that are a little... I guess this is cell, so it's going to be a little different. These seem like they're out of scope for STNet. Maybe they're called... They look kind of dead, though. This looks like something that would have an overlay. That might be good to go back and review what's going on there. All right, so one more of these relatively simple ones, and that's warp. Warp is the warp room. You'll always go through a red door before getting to a warp room. All right, so we got rid of a bunch of files from the PSP specific directories. Makes me happy. We don't have to search outside of our working directory for a bunch of files. That's good too. Let's look at what else we have. So the DRA specific stuff I'm not overly concerned with. Main as well. Those are going to be different. And that's fine. Let's look at breakable wall in CHI and see why that might be different. I haven't seen situations where breakable wall is different. It almost seems like this just was never mapped. So let's clean this one up. Let's look at NZ1 has breakable wall. Oh, that's not mapped either. Interesting. Okay, let's look at, I think that there's a shared breakable wall. Or not. Interesting. So let's look at the dupes report and see what might be going on here. There is no shared breakable wall. Breakable wall segment. And top and R top, but those don't match. Interesting. So breakable walls are unique. I don't think I would have expected that. Let's figure out what's going on. And hopefully we should have the US version already. So maybe this is just fixing this to work with whatever PSP constraints. And maybe fixing some data. We'll see. I've not, so CHI, which is what is CHI? Abandoned Mine was a kind of a stealth drop where somebody who I wasn't familiar with on the project came in and basically dropped the entire CHI overlay all at once, and that was over a year ago, and it was pretty unique at the time. We didn't have many overlays that were completely finished at all, and so to get a PR where everything was done was pretty crazy. And so it looks like we have a jump table and some other stuff. Oh. The top is getting cut off. Oh, there we go. As soon as I hit enter, it went back. Bunch of no-ops at the bottom for padding. All right, so we're going to start with the PlayStation version that is matching on the PlayStation and assume that what we have is similar. We don't want debris though, we want breakable wall. I'm going to grab this data as well. We'll remove the data. Sorry, didn't flip over, I'm just grabbing it from the file. We have an EONIT that we need. And it looks like some types that PlayStation is going to be a little more liberal with accepting, but the ESP, so GCC, sorry, I should say GCC. GCC is a little bit more liberal accepting than MetroWorks. All that. It looks like there's an entity extension that we're missing. Possibly a... We'll see if this comes back to haunt us. So we need the breakable debris entity extension. I'm just filling in these entity IDs. They're not correct, but we'll fix those. All right, so I think everything that's left is type information. Looks like one more entity ID. So let's go grab the breakable debris entity extension. I can spell debris. So we'll throw that into the context. I didn't want the type def, but oh, so we do have breakable debris in here already. It looks like it's an older definition. So I guess I'll put these fields up in the context. I see. Yeah, we don't have much there. All right, so we're at 96%. Not too bad. So it looks like some RO data needs to be updated. And maybe just variables. Some fields. Oh, primitives we'll have to fix. Let's fix the primitives. Again, there's an extra 4 bytes on the PlayStation version of primitives. There's no easy way to put that like an if-def in the context. M2C doesn't support it. So we just have to have one context or the other. So most of this is fine. It looks like there's just probably some variable issues. And so hopefully we can resolve what those are. I'm gonna take the declaration, put that in the context as well so that we get nice variable names. I'm gonna move, all this is defined in the C file already. So I'm gonna move that into the context as well. And then we'll take a look at the decomp and see if there's anything. So interesting, inline step enum. We don't need a type def for it because we're not using the enum. We're not declaring any variables of that type. So I'm going to actually get rid of the type def. It's not hurting anything, but we don't need to add an entry there. Let's go in. I'm not seeing anything necessarily at the start, except for this A0, A1 move. We don't do this enough. I like it, but assigning constants with names at the top. The compiler will take these and just put in the literal value, and so you don't have to. It doesn't end up being a computation. It happens at compile time. Let's find the first S variable issue. So line 40. This looks like it's being used as an ephemeral value, so not too worried about that. But here, castle flags possibly is being assigned to a variable first, and we don't have that. And where is this 0 being set? So it almost looks like it's the same C variable. So let's see what happens if we assign this to a C first and then check the C. We get a mask. Okay, so I'm going to assume that even though a register is being used, that register is being implicitly chosen. I'm going to look for less than equals or greater than equals checks. Sometimes that affects when A0, B0 are being used, but I don't see anything like that here. Our add here looks like it possibly out of order, or again, possibly. Oh, this is possibly broken too. So this, I don't know why you wouldn't put all of this inside. You don't put it inside because it doesn't work that way. Kind of an odd construct. But it looks like we're grabbing the tile map pointer. And let me go look at what that is. FG is an unsigned 16, so let's grab an unsigned 16 pointer. We have source tile, which we can't reuse. Interesting that somebody went through and they did comment on what registers are being used, and this looks like something from the PSP, but I don't think it is. So let's grab the pointer first and then do this arithmetic. We are missing a load here, offset 0. And that's still missing. So in this case, S1, let's find out what S1 is. S1 is this source tile. So we're loading this value first, and we're putting in the A2 register. And then much later, we're storing it. So we do need a sign 16. And this is our load. The sign extension, why is that happening? I'm going to move this back down out of the variable. And now try to reconcile why we're getting a sign extension. We're loading the half and assigning it to a sign 16. And that sign 16 is being used as a sign 16. Okay, I'm going to eat my hat and say I was wrong. And this gives us, yeah, okay, so this is just a register issue. Nothing more than that. The add here may be wrong. The order seems odd. It's just going to, it's just register allocation issues. Okay, so I'm going to keep moving and hope something else works that out along the way. Next, 58, more castle flags, same thing. Getting the S3 register again. Same as this castle flags. Nope, this was to S5, so again, probably ephemeral. We're not using the same variable. 65. We're moving the value of the return from destroy entity into A2. There's not really a good reason for that. If we had a declaration for destroy entity, would it make it, if I could spell void, would it make a difference? Nope. It'd be nice to get a nice signal on some of this. Just a lot of noise so far. All right, so here's the first one. This one, we finally have something nice and easy. And this may be the difference. So we're not using EIDs. So we have the global values for these. So the original at 112 for create entity is breakable wall debris. Okay, so that's getting us a little closer, and hopefully this is all small things like that. We do have a variable that we can map. We can do that later. Another. Maybe as we move through this, maybe that's all it's going to be. I assigned explosion 5 when it should be 2. We'll go through and see if we have anything else like that. Just slowly and methodically. 3 instead of 6. Register issues. I'll move here on 186. Nothing. I don't see anything super obvious there. You want to find all the returns, and if they're not part of like an exception case, I'm gonna change them to breaks. I don't think that'll change much. Just keeps it more consistent. I was hoping for at least one more of these EID issues. It doesn't look like we're going to find it. The next thing is the ordering here. We have 14, 18, and 1C. So 20, 24, and divided by 4 for each of these. So we have these cases up here that aren't included. So it looks like through at least probably 5, 6, and 7. So let's go add those. So after break 3, we're going to add a case 5, case 6, and case 7, and those are all going to break. I'm going to see if this rewrites this in the way that I wanted it. Doesn't. Let's add explicit breaks for each of those and see if that writes this the way that I want. It's not still. The other thing we could do is throw a default. And if that doesn't work, there's one other trick I'm going to try. 2 other tricks I'm going to try. I think we should be able to get these in order, but I'm going to put them backwards and see if that... No, it still doesn't. No, okay. The jump table order, I would expect these to be the same. When it works, the RO data is typically the same. If RODiff gives us the RO data, we should be able to see. So this actually, no, it is different. Yeah, I would expect these to be the same. So I think there's possibly something else going on. And again, it may or may not be related to some of the other issues that are happening. So the way I read this is like the RO data label is pointing to offset 14, 18, and 1C. And so the way that this is rendered is based on how this is being generated. And so because this is being... Oh, it's being generated wrong though. Yeah, you might be right. It's being generated incorrectly because we have more code and less code some places. Yeah, I will buy that. All right, so what I want to do, we have too many variables for how many registers there are. So when that happens, you get less consistent rules about how and when and why registers are assigned to specific variables. There's no guarantee ever that this would be the case, that they're going to be in any specific order or anything like that. We don't see an S2 in here. I'm going to go through the painful process of trying to figure out which, just confirm that these comments are correct. I didn't write the comments, so I'm coming in assuming that they're correct. And if they are those variables being used consistently? So S0 actually looks pretty good. S0, it says is B, but I think here on 179 we're going to see that it's not. It's being used for prim. Nope. It's being used for what? Whatever the compiler wants it to be used for. There is a possibility, and I don't really want to undo this. Where's reset time? It's here. There is a possibility that these are being used in some other way, but it doesn't look like that. And we could check the offsets, make sure that those are fine. Those look fine as well. So I really, yeah, I think we're just getting to the point where the registers have spilled over and we're just using whatever we can get when we can get it. So I think S0 is fine. S1 starts out fine as well. So we may have to look not just at how and where the registers are being used, but also just other other aspects of this code. So it could be something like the order of this expression. Is it y pos minus random plus 32, or is it something else? So we're looking here at 169. So here's one of those cases, and this is something that you would only get from the PSP, that params is being set to 10 and then being ORed. You won't see that on the PlayStation. On the PlayStation, this would look like this. But obviously that's not what it is. Why? I think it, yeah, it just didn't compile. So this has been run through the PSP at least once already. The other thing that can help influence what registers is being used is whether or not you can make a variable look like it's going to be used again later. I'm not sure that's what's happening here, but that is another trick. So S1, mostly okay. S2 is looking very nice. So S2... S2 is being used perfectly, but it's not specifically commented as any particular variable. Let's look here. 111, it looks like it's the entity pointer. And move that and the primitive pointer up. I guess I'll keep it in order. I don't think that there was any issues with S2. S3 starts off rocky already, and that's part of this expression here. S3 we have as FG tile. $60, it's misused again. 72. Here it's prim. And for the rest of the function, it looks like it's prim 193. until here. And just for kicks, I'm going to see what happens if I move this. Not much. Not much good, anyway. I was hoping there would be something obvious, but somebody has obviously gone through this already. Probably painstakingly did the same thing that I'm doing. Shook their fist at the sky. Said, "Get off my lawn," a few times. Alright, unfortunately I don't think much progress is going to be made here. Let's look at other attempts. Oh, Josh had a very close one. Let's see if it's the same. It is 78. Wow. So, he threw some garbage in there. Which seemed to help a lot, but it is just garbage. But without it, things do not work. I do like this better. So we're taking a reference here and then indexing in again. So it looks like they're not the same one. That's the same one. 112 again. And this is along the lines of what I was saying. If we kind of force the compiler to think this variable is still in play, we might get it to do what we want. It looks like down on 204 could possibly use something like that again. That one really blows it up, though. All right, and where else do we have? This one is... Oh, there is a 99.75. Let's look at that one. I'm not sure. No, yeah, this is a different version of that function. So I don't think we have a good... Oh, this is entity break wall debris, not the wall. Okay, so unfortunately I don't think we're gonna get anywhere with that, and that's pretty much my time. So we'll come back to this and see if there's anything. Is wall debris in here? Occasionally having a static reference may or may not cause things to behave one way or another, but I'm not sure what might be going on there. Let's try that for kicks. See if that does make any difference. It should be able to do that empty. Apparently not. Yeah, that doesn't change anything. All right, so we'll come back tomorrow. We're decompiling Castlevania Symphony Night, working through a bunch of the. Oh, let's do this one instead. Working through a bunch of the PSP cleanup stuff. Just trying to get through. We had been working on Clock Tower, and we'll get back to Clock Tower as soon as that other PR gets merged, and we should see a big jump. And I'll try to get these graph changes checked in as well and see if other people like that. I did also update the PSP graphs. Those hadn't been updated in a while. If I can find where that is, I can never find. That's JP. We have a lot of PSP graphs now. Where is it? Where is it? There we go. So we do have graphs for a bunch of those that we're missing. And yeah, we'll try to get there. Go to soten.z.dev, not austin.local, but soten.z.dev, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Adios. No, Monday. I'll catch you all Monday.